Whoa, 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 what is going on, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to In the Post. I am Corey. With me, as always, is the one, the only, Mr. Todd. Give it up for Todd, everybody. Thank you. How you doing tonight, Todd?
Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Good evening. It's a true pleasure to be here talking hoops. Things are
Talking hoops.
getting a little out of hand. I mean, what a weekend of basketball we've had.
Bobby just jumps in the chat right away with the Bears, just completely
Da
relevant.
Bears.
Just right in line with what we're going with tonight. Bobby, appreciate you dropping by, buddy. Thanks for liking the video. Um, so yeah, I mean, let's just get right into it. I think we have had a pretty eventful, I don't know, few days of basketball here over the last couple of hours and last couple of days. And I mean, lo and behold, I was right. I mean,
You were
lo and
right.
behold, I was right. It was just
You were right.
amazing. Rock Chalk Jayhawk, baby. The Kansas Jayhawks are national champions for the first time since 2008, if I'm not
That sounds
mistaken.
right. I believe
Yeah,
that's right. It's been at least a decade, and they did it in wild fashion at that, coming back from a 16-point deficit
Bruce.
to beat the Tar Heels.
Yeah,
That injury that Armando Bacot suffered at the end of the game due
Armando
to the
Bacot.
floor moving.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
floor moves. That was crazy. And I'm sure that there will be some things addressed from that due to the
Nick, thanks for
reason
liking the
why
stream, man.
the energy happened or injury happened. This that can't happen, right? You can't just have
Right.
the floor moving out from underneath,
Bruce with the
these
chair.
guys' feet. It's crazy.
Yeah,
Crazy.
no, it's ridiculous. Now what Todd's referring to, the last literal 60 seconds of the game, Armando Bacot is driving right side of the paint, takes a step. He had injured in the previous Final Four matchup against Duke. He had injured, I believe, his right ankle at the time. And it was questionable whether or not he's going to be able to go. If you'll remember from the Final Four game, left the court, literal seconds, he was jogging back out of the tunnel, back to close that one out for the Tar Heels. On this occasion, however, he went and drove in, and the right ankle slipped out from under him. It twisted really badly, and it was clear that one of the floorboards that had been engineered there in the Superdome in New Orleans just shifted and probably resulted in the injury. That being said, is it the reason that they lost? It might have
No,
been because
it's
listen. Right after that, Kansas has the ball, and what do? They attack down low. Kansas is down at this point, if I'm not
right.
mistaken, or no, they're only up one. I believe
They're
it
up. They're
was.
up. They were up one. Yeah.
They're up one. They need a basket to try and force it into a 3-point shot to tie the game, which they did by attacking right where Armando Bacot would have been. Manic was in there defending against McCormick. That's a huge matchup disaster for the Tar Heels and resulted in an easy bucket for McCormick, who was hot all night. I mean, it was an easy decision for the Jayhawks to work that inside with Bacot leaving at that point. I mean, so it's not why they lost the game, but it's a huge. It was a huge swing, right? Like it
Yeah.
makes it a lot easier for the Jayhawks. That's what I was trying to say.
Right. It doesn't. I mean, you traditionally don't win games when you give up a 16-point lead, but that we saw I think that luck that they had from the round of 32 moving forward, just the well kind of just ran dry in the Kansas game, right? I mean, the way Baylor comes back, game gets into overtime, then the Duke game, like they had to play a lot of really physical basketball leading up to this game,
Yeah.
and look, you're playing 6 or 7 games leading into this if you're North Carolina, and that last game gets you're tired by the end of it, regardless of if it's a span of 3 or 4 weeks. It's you're putting a lot of pressure on these guys' bodies, especially with how much is on the line for them in terms of some of these guys. Some of it's the variance between them being an actual NBA draft pick versus playing overseas or starting in the G League. For like speaking specifically on Brett Manick, this for him, this is the largest platform that he'll likely ever be on ever again in terms of being an athlete. So there's a lot on the
Yeah.
line for guys like this, and the well just ran dry. And
Yeah,
look,
and I think go ahead.
I was just gonna say, and McCormick, the Final Four game in the national championship game, McCormick went from being an impact player on the floor to being their best player on the floor, right? I mean, like the Final Four in the national championship, he went insane. I believe his field goal percentage was like almost 80%.
Yeah.
Something
It was
crazy.
it was it was nuts, and not only that, but defensively, the way that he was able to kind of stand up to Armando Bacot and just be that defensive force in the middle that no one seemingly was able to do against North Carolina throughout the tournament. He was able to be that for Kansas. And then I think it all kind of culminated. A lot of what you just talked about kind of culminated within the first few minutes of that first half, and then obviously the last few minutes of the second half with Armando Bacot going down. But whether it be Jordan Love rolling the ankle early to a point where he was halfway limping down the court until they got a stoppage in play, or not a stoppage in play, I'm sorry, but just halfway, limping down the court. And then, or whether it be when Manic got hit in the face like 4 times. Katie and I are watching this, and I'm reminded of that Comedy Central skit where the dude is playing volleyball and he's literally just taking spike after spike off the face. They're using him as a human shield. I had to sit there and show her this video. I was like, look, this is what's happening right now. And it was fucking hilarious. But what's his name? I believe this guy was actually for Kansas. So I'll backtrack off that. But just getting beat up the entire game, and it resulted in Kansas edging them out. Kansas, nothing should be taken away from them, though. The largest deficit in NCAA championship history, I believe it was 15, if I'm not mistaken. It might have been 16, but either way. Amazing comeback for the Jayhawks. They kind of were under the radar the whole season. Agbaji is going to probably be a top first round draft pick, if I'm not mistaken. So we'll see here in not too long, but it's going to be an interesting draft, and seeing how many of these guys out of the Final Four in particular are coming out, because I don't think Kansas is necessarily loaded to the teeth with a bunch of guys that are going to be drafted. They got a couple, and North Carolina, I think maybe you got one, maybe two guys that are going to get drafted. Same kind of thing. So it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting. So going along, the season is over. NCAA season has finished. I don't want to say commenced. We always say, like, when you're graduating, it's the end of your time, but they call it a commencement. And to commence is to begin. It's just horseshit. There have been a lot of shuffling going on in NCAA coaching. It's happened rather quickly, being as the game, just ended not too long ago. So, Todd, what's going on in the world of coaching? What's the biggest shocks, biggest moves, biggest things you're keeping your eye on going into next year?
So, I think first things first. Let's just talk about your Gators, right? Mike White out immediately.
Who called that?
You did. You called that. Here's the thing, though, is that you take him from Florida, that's had proven success, the majority of the time that he's been there, right? I don't want to take anything away from Florida, because I think he's had 6 or 7 tournament wins in his time at Florida.
It's pretty consistently been a Sweet 16 exit. Obviously, the nail in the coffin the last 2 years is getting bounced in the round of 32 by Blowjob Bobs, aka Oral Roberts, and then not making the tournament this year in abysmal fashion. So,
and then look, he's going into Georgia, and here's the thing about Tom Crean. And I don't know how much you know about Tom Crean, but it seems like every program that he is either terminated from or leaves is an absolute fucking shambles. Look at where Indiana is now, right? I mean, Indiana in the early mid 2000s was still a perennial basketball program, and then Tom Crean comes there in the 2010s and absolutely turns that program upside down.
Yeah,
and then you have Kelvin Sampson coming in upside down. It's just bad. Tom Crean gets to Georgia. Georgia was the worst team in the SEC by far. coming off of it. I believe 3 or 4 years ago they made it to the Sweet 16, and they're not good. And then you insert Mike White, a guy who has proven that he can win, but then has also shown that his pitfall in the SEC, or in college basketball rather, is recruiting.
Yeah.
Recruiting past the guards, right? If you look at Florida previously, when they were really successful, they played really
under Billy
well.
Donovan.
Yeah, Billy Donovan did an excellent job of recruiting people that can score and follow their shot and create second possessions on offense. And what I mean by that is guys that attack the offensive boards, like an Al Horford or a Joakim Noah, people like that, right? And Florida just doesn't have that. They don't have guys that, the SEC had a lot of good big guys this year. There was Oscar Tshiebwe is the John Wooden Player of the Year, right? And just didn't have anybody to combat that. And I think that's where now you're inserting Todd Golden, who has taken San Francisco to back-to-back tournament appearances, and you're bringing in a guy that's had success in we'll call it the small market of college basketball, and I think those guys traditionally do really well in the recruiting side because it's raw. And I think that there's a unique level of authenticity that comes with small coaches transitioning into the Power Five.
Yeah, I'll just make a quick comment just on days of old and then get to Todd Golden. But I think, one of the things that Billy Donovan really focused on with these Gators teams was the offense actually ran through Joakim Noah, and it ran through Al Horford. And it was facilitated by guys like Corey Brewer, Torian Green, and then it was really accented by guys like Lee Humphrey, right? Like those were the accent guys around the main focus being the interior of the game. Now, the game of basketball has changed a lot since then, so I don't know that you're necessarily going to locate. Like Joakim Noah is not just walking around. Al Horford's not just walking around out there. There's not really that type of player anymore. You need like an Al Horford that can stretch the floor. Like that's what you need now going into basketball today. So not saying that that's going to happen, but I did a little bit of research. I didn't know a lot about Todd Golden, but when I did a little bit of research,
Jesus Christ,
it's a great day to be a Gator with Todd Golden coming. I'm absolutely pumped. You got to be pumped just for his name. Great fucking name. You got to admit that right there. Just great fucking name. But not only that, I read his interview and I read a little bit about him going in. Todd Golden's already in touch with Billy Donovan, talking about, I want Billy to be a mentor. I respect him so much as a man and a coach and yada, 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 all this stuff. And I really think he's going to be somebody. And Florida has kind of been consistent with that since Billy Donovan. They hired Billy Donovan at a very young age, respectively speaking, towards the rest of college basketball. He was there for 19 years. They follow that up with Mike White, another we're going to just skip the in between that. But Mike White is a very young coach as well. And now they're following it up with who will be one of the youngest coaches in NCAA basketball, other than
the second youngest coach.
Other than the gentleman taking over for Duke. So we'll get there in a second, I'm sure. But I'm excited. I think he's going to utilize the transfer portal a lot, try and make Florida a competitive basketball program. When you look in the SEC in the last 20 years, the two most successful basketball programs in the SEC are Kentucky and Florida. That's it. Those are they're the only ones that have won a national championship. So suck it, boys. Good day to be a Gator. What else you got?
Yeah. Look, I just want to, before I move on, I just want to say, if you watch Tom Golden as a coach, I think he coached with Bruce Pearl. And I think Bruce Pearl is one of those guys that doesn't get
Auburn, not Tennessee.
Right. Auburn, Bruce Pearl, not Tennessee, Bruce Pearl. Two completely different styles of coaching from Bruce Pearl there. But I think he is a not a disrespected coach, but maybe underappreciated is the right word for Bruce Pearl, because I think
that's fair.
His energy level is what got Auburn to where they got to, and unfortunately they just filtered out so quickly that the flame was just gone. But I love a good young my point being, Todd Golden is the same way. The dude has a fire lit under his ass 24/7, and I love that in a young coach because I think that there's
Yeah.
a unique way to connect with these guys, especially now that you're throwing money on the table for a lot of these athletes, to be able to connect with youth and being more involved in practice and running those drills and being in the trenches with those guys. I think that creates that additional camaraderie that sometimes some of these old coaches miss that don't have the legacy, right? Like excluding Krzyzewski and Roy Williams and those guys, they got it all mapped out for themselves already. Their careers in the rafters for forever. But some of these older coaches, they lose touch with the young talent because there's such a huge generational gap between the 55 and up coach to the 40 and under coach now. The 40 and under coach understands the 18 to the 22-year-old. 55 and up does not.
Yeah, I think that's a big deal when you're looking at recruiting, obviously, but not only that, when it comes to player development and to be able to build a program back to a place where you are competing for national championships and going to Final Fours. It all starts with the 4-year player, and you have to get some of those. You can't just come in and just do the one and done route because it's not sustainable. You can't build a program that way. You got to have depth through your roster, and that starts with the guys that you're going to be able to develop. In order to do that, you have to connect, and that's what I'm really looking forward to seeing what Golden can do. Which hire that just recently happened would you say you're most excited about?
Of all these coaches?
Yeah, of all the changes, or what was the biggest holy shit, or which one are you like, that's awesome?
So I think one that you and I even talked about a little bit. It's kind of a joke, but I'm really excited to see Sean Miller back in Xavier. With Xavier being a Big East program now, right? It's not an A10 program anymore. And Sean Miller had a ton of success. I mean, it got him the job at Arizona. What he was able to do with Xavier in those 2000s years, and now he's in a big. I mean, he's getting back into a big basketball conference with a school that he's super comfortable with. He understands the inner workings of Xavier University, and working within a private Jesuit school is a significant variance from working within the inner workings of the third biggest party school in the fucking country,
right?
And the University of Arizona.
A few less eyes on you,
right? So I'm really interested to see, because I think Chris Mack did a great job at Xavier. He led the program to take on probably the biggest challenge in college basketball, and taking on Louisville, and we saw him fail. But I think Sean Miller is going to have a lot of success in the Big East, and we're seeing a lot of coaching changes in the Big East. And roll right into it. Shaheen Holloway now being the head coach at Seton Hall.
Awesome for him. Totally awesome for him. I mean, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think that I talked a little bit about it, but I think this is a prime example of March Madness creating a career path for somebody. Shaheen Holloway was completely written off in the basketball world, right? You don't go to St. Peter's as a top coaching prospect. You go to St. Peter's because the job is right.
Is available.
Yeah, because you've been an assistant for a long time, or you've worked your way through from the D3s to the D2s, and now he's getting a chance again to coach in the Big East. I think the Big East is a conference that's still figuring out how to get into college basketball and be better in college basketball. I think there's been a huge gap. I don't think the Big East will ever be the 90s and the 80s and 90s Big East, right? We're not going to see those programs again.
Hard to say.
There's too much love around the country for these guys to go to now, and there's just too much money that can get you to the bigger, like the Big 12, Big 10, SEC, ACC. There's too much money now on the line for these guys to take a gamble and go play in New Jersey, or to go play at Georgetown, whatever it may be. But I think Shaheen Holloway is going to have a lot of success. And again, I think youth is a big factor here. You watch him on the sidelines, he connected with those players, and so much so that their top 3 scorers entered the transfer portal this week, right?
That's what I was going to say. That's what I was going to say. I was say you get you coach out of there, and top 3 scorers are entering the transfer portal. Now, what does that say for a team like St. Peter's? Whether or not they're going to be able to build off of this is going to be kind of tough. They have to replace their head coach that built it. They're going to have to replace their top 3 scorers that contributed to it. So it's definitely going to be interesting. But I got to say, before we get too long, that's what I'm sipping on tonight. We've got a little Cigar City, a little High Lie action. If you never had it before, I definitely recommend it. High Lie, the sport.
The South Beach sport, right? The one where you whip whatever. I don't remember what they call the actual ball, but you whip it off the wall and
you throw it around. If you never had Cigar City High Lie, it's an IPA. It's fantastic. I mean, it is.
I'll have to try it.
Scrumdiddlyumptious. Sup, fellas? I think is that from Bobby? I might be from Bobby. What's up, Bobby?
just on our page, but I appreciate it. Hey,
no.
Hey, but I think it's funny you bring up the St. Peter's thing and these guys hitting the transfer portal, and I alluded to it a little bit before too. And Shaheen Holloway, Bobby went to Seton Hall. He's at Seton Hall. Thank you. I don't know if I said that or not. But NIL exists now, right? And these guys, I think they're just chasing money. I think that's what it really comes down to.
I think it comes down. But what's gonna happen is like, all right, if Syracuse is offering you the same amount of money as Georgetown, you're gonna go to Georgetown because it's a better school. Georgetown is historically a better school, right? It's in a way cooler city. Like it's just not even close. So it just comes down, like it really comes down to how much are you able to leverage your program. Like, but I don't think a lot of people are going to be like signing up. Like, I can't wait to go play for Patrick Ewing, and like we're gonna suck. Like, I can't wait for that. Like, yeah, I played for Patrick Ewing. Yeah, I went to school in DC. Yeah, I got a degree from Georgetown, but we sucked, and nobody gave a fuck about us at all. So it's going to be a culmination of all those things, is what I'm trying to say. And the one that I'm intrigued about the most, simply because of his ability to recruit top tier talent. There's no question about that. I mean, it was Billy Donovan and this guy back in the early 2000s that were bringing in all of the cream of the crop. The new head coach for the Butler Bulldogs, Mr. Thad Matta, is back. Yeah. Thad Matta is back. Satan is returning. He's here. He's been in the front office, if you will, of Indiana for the last couple of years, working there. This motherfucker is back. So in the Big East, you've got Sean Miller, Thad Matta, Shaheen Holloway, Patrick Ewing. Who am I missing out of the Big East?
Jay Wright.
Jay Wright, duh. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. You got a lot of big names going in the Big East, and I think it's an effort to improve that conference's inability, I guess you would say, to perform as of late. Another big one, you had mentioned how the tournament has contributed to people, accelerating up the ladder. Obviously, Todd Golden going to Florida, taking San Francisco to the tournament for the first time in a long time. Head coach of Murray State, he's now at Mississippi State. Another guy that has had a lot of success in the NCAA tournament. Obviously, I believe you recruited John Morant, if I'm not mistaken. So he's good at basketball, in case you didn't know. So yeah, it's been a lot of fun. Obviously,
LSU. Murray State's coach went to LSU.
Oh, he went to LSU. I'm sorry. Who's at
New Mexico
Mississippi
State's
State?
coach? New Mexico State went to Mississippi State.
That's right. That's right.
Again, I think you're absolutely right. New Mexico State falls right into that category with Murray State because they consistently win their conference.
They're almost always in the tournament. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I personally, I think that we are at a point. I know. I saw the question too. I think it's a good question for you and I to talk about. I think we're in a position now where, again, the boomer coaches is moving on. They're either retired or they are
the big dogs. I mean, Patino's on his way out, right? Calipari, I mean, we'll get to him in a second. I wouldn't necessarily call him a boomer just yet. Tom Izzo, one more year. I'm telling you right now, when his son graduates from the Michigan State University, Tom Izzo will be done as well. Coach K's out. Williams was out last year. I don't know.
Boeheim's
Yeah,
about done too.
Boeheim, he's about done as well. Yeah, those are the main guys that you think of when you think of boomer, quote unquote. So yeah, it's a new era of coaches, and not only that, but the young, promising guys that could have been a Coach K, could have been a Roy Williams, could have been a Patino, and I'm talking of two guys in particular, Billy Donovan and Brad Stevens. They've moved on. They went to the NBA because that was their dream, right? That was their goal. Coach K, Patino. Patino tried the NBA for a little bit, came back, obviously, but I think I just think about what it would have been like if Billy Donovan stayed at the University of Florida. That would have just been like you'd be talking about like, is Florida a blue blood? like people talk about that with like Villanova. You know what I mean? Which
Right.
brings us to our chat question here: who will be better next year, the Gators or the Wildcats? I think that's a pretty easy answer. I don't know about you.
Yeah, look, I don't call what Florida has to do necessarily a rebuild, but there needs to be expectations need to be reset, right? That program needs to get back
Yeah.
on. They're kind of they're figuring out their way to get onto the next set of stairs, and they're just kind of hanging out on the ledge right now. That's the best way to describe Florida because
And it's interesting. It's interesting because they're a program, an athletic department rather, that's replacing a head coach in football and in basketball in the same
Yeah,
season, which is
right.
really interesting considering everything that's changed with the NIL. Bobby, you can't start a fight between two logical human beings. It's just it doesn't make. But I appreciate Bobby jumping in here and hanging out with us. The main thing for me is the only way Florida is better than University of Kentucky next year in basketball. We're just gonna say basketball. Football's coming up. We'll hold that. The only way that they're going to be better than University of Kentucky in basketball is if they go wild in the transfer portal and just start snatching recruits, just throwing cash. That's the only way they're going to do it. I don't think that's going to happen. Like I talked about, I think they want to take their time and build a program. But that's the only way, in my opinion, they're better than UK next year.
You know, it's interesting you say that though, because Kentucky's also coming off a point in time where um, they had to hit the transfer portal. They had a lot of guys that left, and you know, some of their freshmen had to come back for a second year because they weren't lottery picks. And now you're going to see really the only surefire lottery pick that's getting into the draft from Kentucky is Ty Washington. Oscar Tshiebwe is the Wooden Player of the Year, but he might not get drafted till the second round. I think Kentucky is kind of at not at a similar point. They're certainly they're getting, you know, top 50 prospects coming in and committing to Kentucky.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
There's a serious lack of leadership, and it's very apparent, and that's where the good college basketball teams are beating the better talent. Leadership exists. North Carolina made it to the national championship because they had a floor full of leaders and guys that could figure out how to play the game their way and win and make sure that they won the game playing their style of basketball. Kentucky didn't have that. If you watched them against St. Peter's, it was five guys playing for themselves, playing in completely different directions. And Shaheen Holloway took full advantage of it. He made him stretch the floor. He made him figure out how to play one-on-one defense, and they got beat. St. Peter's was not the better team. There was nothing there that said that they were the better team, but they won. And I think that's as a Kentucky fan, that's something I compartmentalize my fandom versus reality. And I think sometimes people have a hard time with that. And I've said it on here and I'll say it again. I think I don't like John Calipari. I don't think he's a good college basketball coach. I think at one point in time, he was the best recruiter college basketball I'd ever seen. But that's also came and gone. He's not the best recruiter in college basketball anymore. It's clear. They're not the perennial powerhouse they used to be year in and year out, always on top 5 watch.
John Wall and Anthony Davis aren't walking in the building anytime soon either.
Yeah, Karl Anthony Towns does not exist in Kentucky's world right now. There's too many people throwing money at these guys for that to
well,
exist.
Don't give me that. I mean, Kentucky's throwing money at people too. Let's be very clear about that. Like, come on.
No,
you want to go sit in the middle of fucking Lexington when you could go to Arizona State?
Right. Or and shit, I'm living in Columbus versus going to a Kentucky basketball game. Columbus is leaps and bounds better than the city of Lexington. I've spent enough time in Lexington to know that if I
Sure.
were a college student there, I would have transferred because it's fucking boring unless it's basketball season.
It's like
And
a
now
poor
football
man's
season,
Cincinnati. I think
it really,
Lexington,
it truly is.
yeah, yeah. Everything's
And
spread out. There's not like a sector of like fun.
yeah,
Just
but
kind of have
I
to
guess my point,
just say you have to
my
like just
point,
hate life
yeah.
in between watering holes. You're just like, hey, I'm drunk. Let's go to the next bar. And you're just like, fuck. And then you arrive at the next bar.
You got to take the bus in between. That's how you get
No,
money in Lexington. There's a student shuttle that takes you to all the bars.
perfect.
Um, but my point being, I just don't think Kentucky has caught up. Specifically, John Calipari hasn't caught up to the new style of recruiting yet. Money's always been thrown around in basketball. Let's make that clear. Now it's just legal.
Now you just don't have to hide
Right
it.
now,
Yeah.
right. I saw Darius Miller came to Fairfield one time driving a Range Rover when he was a sophomore at Kentucky. Okay, I'm just gonna leave it there. That was 2010. So take that for
Perfect.
what you will.
So with that being said, I thought it'd be a great opportunity to go ahead and drop our current fundraiser that we have going on. We are kicking off a tradition unlike any other. Tomorrow it starts, baby. Tiger's fucking back, and the Masters starts promptly tomorrow. You still have an opportunity to get in to help raise money for JB Memorial. We are, which is a golf outing, by the way, very fitting that we're raising money for this. We are doing $20 entries. You can pick 5 golfers based on their world rankings. All the information that you are going to need is at rallytowsports.com. Go to rallytowsports.com if you're interested in getting into our Masters pool. $20 entry. Half of it's going to charity. Up as of right now, the pool, I still got a few people I got to collect. Bobby got in. I think Caroline got in as well. So let me put this in here. I got to enter in your guys' stuff. I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 people that have entered into the Masters pool as of right now. So the pot is $140. $20 to win 140 if you win it all. So go to rallytowsports.com and check out the Masters pool and get in that shit, win some cash, help out a charity, do good deeds, guys. That's what we're about over here. So do good deeds. Todd, are you excited for the Masters? I want to take a little bit and talk about it because I'm fucking jacked on my mind.
You know what? So here's my full transparency to you. I actually just became interested in golf like during COVID.
Welcome.
Because I just I didn't get it. I didn't understand what the draw was to the sport. And look, I'm by no.
And then you became a father, and something
maybe,
innately
maybe
changed in you.
But I started following Brooks Koepka a lot. Just
Sure.
more. He was the first guy that I kind of was drawn to in terms of golfers, and I saw the way that he carried him even as a professional athlete. Like, you know, I know who all the great golfers are over time, right? I'm not ignorant to the game of golf, but Brooks Koepka was the first guy I was like, I can watch this guy every weekend for a while. And then I watched the Masters that COVID year, right? And that was in August, if I'm not mistaken. And
I was in November.
November, thank you. And I watched Thursday to Sunday.
And it was fantastic, wasn't it?
And it was great. And
Yeah.
now I have to allow the TV for Mary. I have my phone and I watch golf. That's the trade off because I'm not going to force her into something that she doesn't want to do, but I'm not going to miss it. And
you know the best.
I was just going to say, like, my whole life, my dad watched golf religiously. Every weekend when he was home, that was the first thing he would turn on TV was golf. And even as I got older and you get digital cable, the Golf Channel was always the first thing that he turned it to. And I'd be like, why the hell is this interesting? And then it was just like something flipped in my head and I'm like, okay, I get it. This is good. This is
Yeah.
really good.
And the main thing for me that really changed into when I really started watching and getting into the sport and the players and everything like that is really when I started taking the sport more seriously, honestly. Um, as an individual trying to just improve my game, because when you do that and you're running through drills at the range and then you're trying to implement it out in the course and all of the things that go through your head while you're out there, before you get on before you get out on a round, you're going to be like, well, I'm going to take it conservatively, limit my risks, do these things to try and lower my score. These are some of the things that you talk about. And then you get out there out on the course and it's all gone. It's all gone out of your head. You forget everything that you worked on in the range. It's all back down to feel, everything about it, right? It just really honestly makes you appreciate what those guys are able to do that much more, in my opinion, right? That's how I see it when I'm watching golf now that I'm really into it. And you know we hit a little bit, we hit like slices, or if we hook a ball or shank one here, or 90% of the time these dudes are just hitting straight shots. They're just a little too far or a little too short, or they put too much top spin or not enough backspin and all of these things. The accuracy that they have with these clubs is just absolutely bananas. And I think, the fact that, a year ago, we didn't know that the greatest golfer of our lifetime, if not the greatest golfer ever, is gonna ever play again. A year ago, we didn't know if he was ever gonna play golf again, and he's fucking back. And they asked him today. They said, "Tiger, this is our last thing on golf, and we're getting back to basketball, people. I swear to God." They asked him to say, "Tiger, you've said that you would not enter a tournament unless you feel like you can win. Do you feel like you can win?" He looked at the camera dead eye and said, "I do." And when Tiger says that, you just get pumped up. Fucking Eldrick Woods, baby. He is back, and there's nothing like it. There's nothing like it when Eldrick is in the red on Sunday. There ain't shit like it. I'm just telling you. And he's in contention on the Sunday. You can't beat it. Bobby with a comment. So couldn't agree more. They know their distances, shot shapes, and the course is like the back of their hands. And not only that, their caddies do. Their caddies do as well, and allow them to focus on the muscle memory that got them there. So it's pretty amazing. There's not really another sport where that is the case, where you're playing yourself more than you are anybody else.
Absolutely.
It's a hell of a good time. So the Masters start tomorrow. RealityTileSports.com. Get the fuck in the pool. Do it. Do it. Do it. So with that being said, just a beautiful transition there from PGA golf to the NBA. I think that's a pretty fair. We want to do awards, or do we want to talk shit about the Hall of Fame? Which one?
Let's do Hall of Fame first, because I'd love to hear your perspective on it.
I don't think. Okay, so the question is, this got brought up because Manu Ginobili, I believe, got into the Hall of Fame. Am I correct in that statement?
Yeah. So Manu Ginobili, not only did he get elected into the Naismith, he was a first ballot elect.
Yeah. So who do we know off the top? Who the what was the class? What was the recent Hall of Fame class? I can look that up real quick.
Yeah, I was actually looking at it before, and it's
right.
much less focused on the player, and there's a lot of coaches, and for those of you that aren't aware of like how the Naismith works, it's not like Cooperstown, it's not like Canton. It is a completely different type of Hall of Fame.
For instance, there are 5 men, I believe, that were inducted. Out of those 5 men, 2 of them are players.
Right. And the other one, who is, to me, doesn't scream Hall, is Tim Hardaway Sr. Like, that's not a guy that I think of in his career. Look, Tim Hardaway in his time in Golden State, like, he was a good basketball player, right?
Yeah.
But he's not a Hall of Famer. He's a guy that played his position really well. When you think Hall of point guard from the 90s, Tim Hardaway doesn't even crack your top 5.
No.
At least mine.
No, and here's the thing that when you think about the Hall of Fame, and you had kind of mentioned it, and so maybe I'm going to go there and steal your thunder, but I'm going to do it anyway. You had mentioned it's not like Cooperstown, and when you think about what Cooperstown is, it's a boys' club of we are the top, we are the upper echelon. This is an honor, this is prestige, it is sacred in some sense. This is a museum. The Naismith Hall of Fame is a museum. It is a snapshot in time of people eligible at a current time for their service to the league. It is a thank you for what you have done. You are now eligible for this discount at all Golden Corral, Chick-fil-A's, and Chili's. Like, that is what it is, in my opinion. It's like you served the league well. Here you go. You're in the Hall of Fame. Now, does that discredit other people that are in the Hall of Fame? No. Bob Huggins deserves to be in the Hall of Fame, one of the inductees. He, as a coach, obviously, 2 coaches, a referee, what the fuck, and 2 players were inducted in the Naismith Hall of Fame. Bob Huggins deserves to be there, right? The Naismith Hall of Fame is actually one of the only Hall of Fames that you can be inducted in before you're done doing what you're doing.
Right.
It's a different entity, and I think you're going to go a little bit more into that.
Yeah, I think another thing when you look at Hall of Fames for professional sports, this is not just professional sports, right? We're talking about college basketball. Men and women's college basketball is encompassed in this. And in fact, when I look at who is being inducted into the Naismith, the women on this list make way more sense. They are actually people that made an impact on the WNBA or on Team USA for the Olympics, right?
Yeah. So
these are women that actually made a difference.
I just want to compare the write-ups that they did for Tim Hardaway versus the first 2 inductees out of the women's committee that are listed here at the NBA.com. Okay. For Tim Hardaway, the write-up reads, 2000 Olympic gold medalist. Hardaway played 13 NBA seasons, scoring a total of 15,373 points, while averaging more than 20 points a game for 4 consecutive seasons. That's the first sentence for Tim Hardaway. The first inductee into the into the Naismith Hall of Fame for the women's committee is Swin Cash. Cash is a 4-time WNBA All-Star, 2003, 5, 9, 11, and 2-time Olympic gold medalist, 2004 and 2012. A true champion. She was a member of 3 WNBA championships during her 15-year career with the Detroit Shock and Seattle Storm, as well as an NCAA championship with the University of Connecticut, 2000 and 2002. And a gold medalist in the 2010 FIBA World Championship. Do you see a fucking difference there between the category of pedigree between these 2 inductees? It's just a different breed. I don't know how else to say it. It's a different animal than is Canton, than is Cooperstown. Am I wrong?
No, I think that's the right perspective of it. The Naismith is not. I think you describe Cooperstown correctly. Cooperstown is a boys' club. It is a level of prestige within the baseball world that only a less than a 10th of a percentage ever make it to, right? And that's including coaches, that's including front office executives, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. When you look at the players, let me rephrase it, the male players that have made it over the last 3 years, and I'm just going to read these off to you and tell me if any of these to you within their career say, all right, they reached the Hall of Fame, right? That what we think is Hall of Fame. So
you're again, you're listing off a player, and I'm saying whether or not they should be in the Hall of Fame or not.
Right. Okay. Chris Bosh.
Yes.
You think so?
Yeah, I think so. I think the ability to have that he was a starter. And led the league in a starter on championship teams is what I meant to say. And I would say he was probably a top 5 scorer for 6 seasons or something like that. Am I wrong?
For the Raptors who weren't winning championships.
Well, I mean, come on. We're gonna talk about rookie of the year coming up, and they're on dog shit teams. So,
So
I don't know. I think Chris Bosh. I think he has a significant impact on the game, and probably a top 10 player for most of his career.
Okay, Tony Kukoc.
No.
Okay. Ben Wallace. Is Ben Wallace a Hall of Famer in your eyes?
So this is a tough one for me because no, he's not a Hall of Famer in my eyes. I know he's in the Hall of Fame, but no, he is not a Hall of Famer in my eyes. But the fact that he is my justification for why Rudy Gobert should be in the Hall of Fame.
You're right. And that's exactly what I was going to say because we had this conversation on the first episode of this. Ben Wallace is the Hall of Famer. So, but ipso facto, by the way that Ben Wallace made it.
Here's the thing. Ben Wallace might be the greatest defensive basketball player that we've seen in our lifetime. That might be next to Michael Jordan. That might be the case, right? Michael Jordan and Ben Wallace are probably two of the greatest defensive basketball players that we've ever seen in our lifetime. Here's the thing. Ben Wallace was a fucking liability on offense. He was leprosy to a basketball. AIDS, if you will. The bubonic plague. Do not give him the fucking basketball. Don't confuse him with Rashid. Do not give Ben the ball at all. It was bad. Right. It was bad.
Unless he was right. Unless it was an alley-oop where he was literally right next to the basket.
I've seen him miss those.
Yeah. Well, it had to be.
Here's the thing. If Ben Wallace is near the hoop, assassinate him and make him go to the free throw line. That's your strategy.
And I think here's my last one because this is a guy too. I think that because players are inducted based on their cultural impact to the game. This is where he falls in. It's Vlade Divac, right? Because Vlade Divac, when he was introduced into the world of the NBA, he was already but as a cultural player to the game, he is.
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying.
But he was inducted as an NBA player. He was not inducted because every year they induct a cultural player into the Naismith. He was not that. And it blew my mind when they said that. Like, okay, Vlade Divac was a role player big man. So by that theory, Zydrunas Ilgauskas should be in the Hall of Fame, right?
So should Ricky Rubio.
Right. Arvydas Sabonis should be in it. Like, that's where I think the Naismith gets
dang.
It doesn't. Right. It doesn't feel as genuine. I think that's where Naismith comes to me is like the genuinity of being a Hall of Famer. And look, these guys put their time in and service to professional basketball. And they, Manu Ginobili, I don't want to take it away. He was give
him a Rolex or something. I mean, come on.
Right. And Ginobili, if you read his write-up, is more about the year that Argentina won the gold medal over the United States. Right. I'm sure you remember that. And that's a part of his write-up for the Naismith, and I don't think that's justifiable.
No, I think I get what you're saying, and I tend to agree. The one thing I will say, though, is that what my representation of what a Hall of Fame should be is a mix of Cooperstown and Naismith. In my opinion, I think it should be a museum to the sport. It should be inexcusable to exclude players that were massively impactful to the game. Now, how do you decide that? Well, you vote on it, obviously. But it's disrespectful to the game of baseball that Barry Bonds is not in the Hall of Fame. It's disrespectful to the game itself. You're saying that it didn't happen, in my opinion.
Right.
With Barry Bonds not being... Pete Rose is the exact same way. Mark McGwire, Roger Clemens, Sammy Sosa. All of these guys that are not in the Hall of Fame that should be, it's disrespectful to not put them to the game of baseball, right? Now, does that mean you need to turn Cooperstown into Naismith and just fucking anybody gets in as long as you were like a solid dude and like, jerked off the commissioner? Like, that's not how you get in. But I would like to see like a morphing of the two. You know what I mean? I want to see to where, he was a piece of shit, but like he was awesome at baseball or basketball. You know what I'm saying? Right. something of the mix. I'm not saying
Right.
Gilbert Arenas should get put in, but you know what I'm trying to say, right?
No, I follow you, and I think your perspective is interesting because when I think of guys like I look at a man Ginobili getting into the Naismith, it's just like, all right, well then Scott Rowland should have been inducted into Cooperstown, right?
Yep.
That's my direct comparison.
Yeah,
They
that's a
in
very
their yeah, in their time, they were both household names that everybody knew who they were. Now they
hmm
didn't. They were, Scott Rowland wasn't hitting 50 home runs and knocking in 120 people. He was the most sure-handed third baseman in baseball at that time,
Yeah,
and and unfortunately, defense just doesn't get you into Cooperstown.
yeah,
You have to play both sides of the field very, very well. And
yeah.
I'm with you. I think that Bobby and I discussed it very early on when we were talking about Cooperstown. How you look at it from the macro level, and it's so flawed. It's still terribly flawed, and it will be until the guys that are electing are not boomers. Let's be clear. And Bobby's dad came in and had very, very strong justifications for me using the term boomer because he lives within that generation. And
Ryan,
my
what's
explanation,
up, man?
my
Thanks for liking the
explanation to
video.
him was, "Hey, you just said that Mickey Mantle was better than Ken Griffey Jr.
It's false.
That's not true.
Yeah, it's
Statistically,
false.
that's not true. And that's where we're right. And that was my example to talking about how baseball is still disillusioned. That's how I describe the baseball writers
Sure.
of America and the people who are electing. They're disillusioned by
Well, they
um,
honestly, I
because it
think
wasn't
they're.
authentic.
Yeah, they're. I mean, it's just time. It's time for a new era because they don't represent the fans, and that's their job is to represent the fans. They aren't above the fans. They aren't above the game, and that's what they think right now as the Writers Association. So an interesting comparison there between. I would call it polar opposites. The one that is almost the best that still has flaws would probably be the NFL Hall of Fame. I don't know enough about the NHL Hall of Fame, but the NFL Hall of Fame obviously pays a lot of favoritism to the larger markets. Winning Super Bowls is a huge impact as well on your ability to get into the NFL Hall of Fame. So, interesting comparison there. Shifting gears more towards what's happening currently in the NBA as we approach the end of the season. Playoffs are right around the corner. I think April 17th, I believe, is the start of the NBA playoffs. It is
Yep.
coming up. And if you don't watch NBA playoffs, if you're new to In the Post, you're just like, I love Rally Towel, I'm checking out In the Post. I would really encourage you to try. This is the easiest time to get into the NBA. I promise you, this is the easiest time to do it. Is the playoffs. Now, what games are you going to want to be watching? The play-in games are fun. They're interesting. And what I'm referring to here is as of the last couple of years, 7 seed and 10 seed, 8 seed and 9 seed play each other as the last two teams that are going to get in. But where the real meat and potatoes, where the good shit happens, is the 4-5 matchups, the 3-6 matchups. When you get into those, 1-8, 2-7, historically speaking, they're pretty abysmal. But going into those 4-5, 3-6 matchups, I'm talking about seeding, of course, in the playoffs, particularly in the Eastern Conference this year, is going to be a lot of fun because you got a lot of really neck and neck teams. And then obviously, as a in the post, we're really excited about the potential of getting like the Mavs and Jazz going at it in the first round. It's going to be a lot of fun. That's going to be a hell of a matchup. But with that being said, the NBA is a league that gives their awards, I think, at the end of the playoffs before the finals.
That's correct.
And it's almost as if the playoff performance influences the awards, yet they quite often have said, no, the playoffs don't influence the awards. It's a regular season award. So I have to ask you, Todd, you came to me today and said, all right, I want, who do you think, or let's talk about who we think is going to be MVP, Rookie of the Year, and Defensive Player of the Year. Are you asking me to predict who I think it's going to be or who I think it should be? Those are different.
So yeah, okay. So I think for the sake of it being you and I believe we will have different opinions. I say we should be.
Good. I like it. So who would you
Yeah,
like?
let's
Should we
do
leave?
should be.
We'll leave MVP for that's the creme brulee. You have to wait for that. We'll feed you birdies. I think we start with the most boring, and work our way up. So typically, defense is associated with the most boring thing, and I think this is going to be a lot of fun because I know exactly what you're going to try and do. Defensive Player of the Year. Who should it be, Todd?
It should absolutely, without a doubt, 110% be Rudy Gobert.
Oh man! Oh,
I can't
okay.
look.
Okay.
I can't sit here and justify a case where Giannis becomes Defensive Player of the Year or Draymond Green becomes Defensive Player of the Year because I don't think they deserve it.
Yeah.
When I look at Defensive Player of the Year and I think about what they do within their position, right? Mm-hmm. And I think that Rudy Gobert is unique. That he is really one of maybe 8 centers, true centers that actually play in the NBA, that play that big man position and only play the big man role. And he is still one of the best athletes on the floor, consistently, year in and year out. He is one of the best athletes. He blocks a ton of shots. He grabs a ton of rebounds. He sets up a lot of offense for Utah.
He scores.
And yeah, and that's all based off of his ability to block shots and grab boards and steal. He averages almost 2 steals a game for a 7-footer. That's almost unheard of. So, yeah, I mean, the dude is consistently the best defensive player in basketball, and there's no question in my mind that he's Defensive Player of the Year again.
Yeah, and I'm with that again. That would make it 4 for Rudy Gobert, 4 Defensive Player of the Years. Undoubtedly, over the last 6 years or so, has been all around the best defensive player in the league. I'm looking forward to him getting another one. I think he will get another one. That's who I'm going with. Well, and the only knock that I've really seen, like, people are trying to give Rudy smoke, and it doesn't make any sense to me because the knock on Rudy Gobert is, well, he's not guarding the best players on the court because he's a center, so he's not defending against the best players in the court. Who's up? Who are the top 2 guys for MVP, jackass? Who are the top 2 guys for MVP? Answer me that. What position do they play? 5. Thank you. Next question. Also, look at the way he shut down Luka Doncic, an MVP candidate who is not a 1 or a 2. Thank you. I don't the mindset that a 5 doesn't impact the best players in the game. It just doesn't make any sense. Ted, thank you for dropping by, buddy. What's going on? You having a good night? What are you sipping on? Water? That's cool. Not me. I love Rudy Gobert. He's a quiet guy. He's one blunder in his entire career that is from ignorance alone. And obviously, I'm talking about the COVID mic touch. It is something that I think I probably would have done in that situation as well. So, he's silly goose. Anyway. Interesting. I thought when you insinuated that I think we're going to have different opinions, I thought you were really probing at Defensive Player of the Year because you knew.
So
I love Rudy Gobert.
I know you do, and I wanted to try to build a case for somebody else, but here's the thing: you just said it. We're both 2 very logical people, and I could try to create a case for Giannis for being Defensive Player of the Year. I could try, but then I'm not saying my should be. I'm saying
and as we tell our children, Todd, Santa Claus is always watching. He knows when you're lying, and that's what that would be. Do you want coal in your stocking? The answer,
never.
No, you don't. So we discussed Defensive Player of the Year. Moving on to the next most interesting award, in my opinion. Rob, drop it by. Rob has taken a break or just got off work, and he's home, and he's hanging out with us. What up, Rob? It's good to have you, buddy. Good to have you. So, Rob, we just decided that we both agree Defensive Player of the Year should be Rudy Gobert. We're moving on. We got 2 more awards to predict. It is going to be first Rookie of the Year and then MVP. So, Todd, Rookie of the Year, who you got?
So, this one's close to home to you, sir, because I believe that the Rookie of the Year is a Detroit Piston.
We're not disagreeing on anything so far. You're going with Cade Cunningham. Cade Cunningham. Tell me why.
So when I look at Rookie of the Year, and I think Malcolm Brogdon kind of broke this rule for me because I used to think of Rookie of the Year as is your team, are you making an impact on your team to get into the playoffs and win, right? And then Malcolm Brogdon won Rookie of the Year for the Bucks' rookie year. And then my whole perspective of Rookie of the Year changed. And then you introduce Cade Cunningham. Cade Cunningham is the best rookie scorer. He is the best rookie defender.
Yep.
He is
Most
the
efficient
largest
rookie scorer as well.
right. He makes the largest impact on his team. Now, that being said, his impact doesn't reflect to wins, unfortunately. And a lot of that's not his fault. Detroit's just not good.
Look at the other top candidate for Rookie of the Year. He's a Toronto Raptor. Are the Raptors doing anything this season? Yeah, they're picking in the lottery.
It was just a huge fall from grace from where they were just 3-4 short.
And look where their head coach is. Detroit. No, and honestly, I think Cade is a guy that the fact that we're having this conversation about Cade is not surprising, but what is surprising is that Cade was able to basically miss training camp due to injury, didn't really get into the swing of things until about, I'd probably say like Christmas is when we really started to see Cade Cunningham, and now he is just heads and shoulders, in my opinion, the best rookie player in the league. And Detroit is they got one. They got their guy. It's not even a question, in my opinion. The offense can run through him, and they're gonna have another lottery pick, and it's not gonna be long till it's gonna be fun to go to Little Caesars Arena again. Well, it used to be the Palace, but go to Little Caesars Arena and everybody's going, Detroit basketball. They're bringing the bad boys. It's going to be a lot of fun, man. I think the Pistons are close. They only need a couple more pieces, in my opinion, and they got a great head coach.
They do, and I think that depending on where they fall in the lottery, we're going to see a guy that played in the Final Four that in a Pistons uniform. That's Paolo Banchero.
And that would be disgusting.
I think him and Cunningham together. That is the most athletic guard forward tandem that you put on the floor right now. Because Paolo Banchero is basically what Magic Johnson was. Yeah. Let's be clear. Paolo Banchero handles the ball better than Wendell Moore. And Wendell Moore was Duke's point guard. And I think when you bring him and Cade Cunningham together, those are two guys that can drop 25. And Paolo's a guy that can grab 12 to 18 boards a game. I mean, it is...
It's like if Rudy Gobert was more athletic or right. Less tall. What I mean?
Right. And I'm with you. Cade Cunningham, and initially my road led to Evan Mobley for the Cavs. That's where I wanted to go down.
That's not a bad pick.
I looked really deeply into him, and I looked at his statistics, and I looked at his game to game. And Evan Mobley has certain spots, and now Cleveland has a little bit of better scoring around him, guys that can turn on, and Garland is dropping 30 points a game right now, which is absolutely bananas. But I think that Cade Cunningham is a guy that makes a more long-term impact on the sport. Cade Cunningham is a guy that could be Devin Booker. That's how I look at him, right? I look at him as a guy that can have a 50-point game and then turn around and have a 40-point game, and then turn around and have a 15-point game, but not 15 dimes. Like that's who he is. That's why Villanova won the national championship when he was there. Like there's reasons for all of these things, and yeah, I'm super excited to see what his impact in the NBA is over the next decade. And I even draw a comparison for Cade Cunningham to a gentleman that Bobby and I discussed last night named Brandon Roy. And I don't know if you remember how good Brandon Roy was when he was in Portland, but I consider him that he could have been top 15 in scoring all time if his knees wouldn't have failed him. I firmly believe that, because when he played basketball in his prime, whether you were Gary Payton or LeBron James, nobody could guard him. Nobody. He was unstoppable. And I think Cade Cunningham has that legitimate potential to be able to be that type of player.
This is an award that is, as a Jazz fan, it hurts because, you said the Rookie of the Year award, you started thinking about it differently. Jazz fans think about it differently too. We think of it, you could be in the league 1, 2 years, still win Rookie of the Year. So fuck you, Ben Simmons. You're a bitch, and fuck you. Donovan
Man,
Mitchell was Rookie of the Year that year. Just saying.
the basketball got Ben Simmons wrong. They got him wrong.
One good year at LSU. One good year at LSU, and this is what happens.
Well, you're the top prospect in the country, and then you have you have your year, and I think he's
playing in the shittiest conference in one of the best divisions in basketball, or shittiest division in one of the best conferences in basketball. And the West was dog shit back when Ben Simmons was at LSU. It was absolutely horrible. Auburn was not what they were today. Mississippi State was not what they were. Arkansas, Alabama, none of these motherfuckers were doing anything. And they had to face LSU, or they had to face Kentucky once, and Florida once, and Tennessee once. That's it. That's all they had to do.
Yeah.
It's just and then what do you do what they do in the tournament? Nothing. Thank you.
Nothing.
Next. Fuck you, Ben Simmons, little bitch.
Ben Simmons.
I hope you're watching.
He's fortunate because his dad was so close to the NBA. And he's the reason why he went to LSU. But I put him right up there with Greg Oden and one of the biggest disappointments in basketball.
But here's the thing about Greg Oden. Greg Oden was a disappointment because he was hurt. Greg Oden didn't. It's not like Greg Oden got there healthy and then just sucked and didn't make baskets. Like Greg Oden was genetically engineered to have medical issues on his knees if he was in a high impact sport such as basketball, and that's just the way it happened. And
maybe Kwame Brown is the better comparison.
Oh man, went there with that one. Okay, moving on. So we led into this saying we're gonna have different opinions on who's going to get these awards. Defensive Player of the Year, unanimous, Rudy Gobert. Rookie of the Year, unanimous, Cade Cunningham out of Detroit. MVP, we saved the best for last. MVP, who you got? Do you want to say it at the same time so we can fool the listeners? Or there's legitimacy behind it. Okay, so just say it on 3. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Giannis.
Oh, okay. See, now we're different.
We're different. Go ahead.
So now
content.
So now that people can believe that we are just colluding for this. Okay. Yeah. So here is why I believe that Nikola Jokic is my MVP for this season. And I don't think Giannis is a bad pick. And Giannis was my 3rd pick for MVP. I still think Joel Embiid is number 2, in my opinion, for MVP candidate.
Sure.
But I look at Nikola Jokic, and that is a guy that truly 110% does every single thing right. He's a good scorer. He's a good defender. He's a great teammate. And he's 6'10", and he's their best ball distributor. And I think that there is something to be said for a big guy that can be on the floor for 35 minutes a game and almost average a triple-double night in and night out. I think that makes him better than Giannis. And here's the thing.
What makes him better? What makes that better than Embiid?
So I'm glad that you asked me that. So I think Nikola Jokic is a better basketball player than Joel Embiid because Nikola Jokic has shown sustainability in his game. I don't think we've seen Joel Embiid at his best yet. This is Joel Embiid's first year of him actually playing a full season, 100% healthy, and he's playing very well. But I don't think the way Joel Embiid plays the game, him personally, not his style of play, I don't think that's sustainable. I don't think he puts these numbers up year in and year out for the longevity of his career. Nikola Jokic has been doing this since his rookie year. Mm-hmm. It just took until 2018 for him to start getting noticed by people. If you played fantasy basketball in 2016, and you drafted Nikola Jokic before round 5, people laughed at you because you're like, who is this guy? He's a bum. No way you drafting the center from Denver. He hasn't proven himself yet. Year in and year out, he is the top scorer in fantasy basketball. And it's because he does everything well, and he's almost a 90%. He's like an 86% free throw shooter. There's so many intangibles to Jokic's game that makes him be an MVP, and I like it better. And again, that's his variance to Giannis is that I think Nikola Jokic is a better crunch time 2-minute, call it the 2-minute drill, whatever you want to call it, player than Giannis. Giannis has a hard time doing the very small fundamental things very well when the game gets close. He still doesn't have a great jump shot, and he's still a very, very poor free throw shooter for what he is. That's why Nikola Jokic is my MVP.
I can appreciate that. One of the things that I will say that Giannis is clearly better at, even though is one of your number one accolades for Jokic, is scoring. Giannis is a better scorer than Jokic, statistically speaking. He averages over 30 points a game, whereas Jokic averages just over 26 points a game. That's an incremental difference, but when you're looking at your top 3 candidates, and I would classify the top 3 candidates, the guy that we've listed so far tonight being Jokic, Embiid, and Giannis are the top 3, right? They're not separated by much, right? Giannis and Embiid both average over 30 points a game, whereas Jokic averages 26 points a game, 26.8, so basically 27 points a game. Jokic with 13 rebounds, almost 14 rebounds a game versus Embiid's 11 and Giannis with 11. Giannis with almost 6 assists, Embiid with 4, Jokic with 8 assists. So a distributor, the offense running through Jokic over Embiid. I can understand that comparison as well. And I'm looking for Giannis, his field goal percentage, because I think that was the telltale sign for me as to why I attributed him as the leader over. Let's see. I think actually Jokic might have a better one. Hold on. 55 for Giannis, 58 for Jokic. So obviously, there's a lot to be said about where they're operating on the floor there. Shaquille O'Neal with one of the highest field goal percentages of all time in the NBA. So that doesn't mean Shaquille is just a dead eye shooter, but nonetheless, when I think about MVP and I think about guy that impacts their team, it's not necessarily what the NBA classifies as an MVP. I do think Jokic will win. Who do I think it should be? I think it should be Giannis. If I had to start a team around one of these players, I think I would pick Giannis before I would pick Jokic. That's where my head's at in terms of value, most valuable player, which is why James Harden should never have won ever. He should never be considered an MVP. That is a Rally Towel Sports staple, is one of our pillars when we meet. When we have meetings in hotel banquet rooms, we discuss the pillars of our organization. You don't cheat, you don't lie, you don't steal. That's one of our pillars. There's a singular pillar, right? It's called honor. The next one, it's actually the only other pillar. We're a 2-pillared foundation, and the other one is James Harden is a bitch, and he should never have been MVP ever.
Oh man, here's the thing,
and then we cut our hands and lick the blood. That's what we do. It's a cult, very culty.
It's funny because I've had this conversation. You know, you have this conversation with someone, and the one consistent thing that everybody says about James Harden, he should never win an MVP. Never. At any point in time should he ever have been an MVP candidate. And you can respect his ability to score, or what I call your ability to shoot 50 times a game.
Get fouled. That's what his ability is to get fouled. Right.
And again, I take an MVP and I consider them, how do they make an impact on their team? James Harden is the most selfish piece of shit. I put him in a similar category to like a fucking Rob Manfred in my eyes.
It's changed. It's changed since he went to Philly, I will say that, but not his game. His game hasn't changed, but I would say that in a sense that you walk into that locker room It ain't James Harden's locker room.
It is not. He's out of his prime. It's clear. He plays a different
It's
style of
it's
basketball.
Joel Embiid's locker room, and that's why Ben Simmons didn't mesh in Philly. That's why it didn't work there, because Ben Simmons wants to be the man. He was the number one overall pick. It's Ben Simmons. It's Ben Simmons. No, Joel Embiid is God in Philly. Trust the process. I love Joel Embiid, by the way. I know we didn't mention him as a candidate, as a guy that we think is going to win MVP. I love Joel Embiid. I love his fuck you attitude. I love it. In the similar sense to why I loved Aaron Rodgers before he just, like, I don't know, maybe he's huffed too much spray paint or something. I don't know what he does. But in a similar vein of, like, I'm me and I ball, and that's who I'm gonna be. And I love the way Joel Embiid does his shit, man. I love it.
He's also in the perfect city to have that attitude because that is
Yep,
a Philadelphia sports fan.
it really is. That's a great.
All
I never really
across
thought about
all
that.
platforms. Yeah, I mean, and again, that's why I personally thought Nick Castellanos was a great sign for Philadelphia because he has that same attitude in baseball.
Yeah, fuck
When
you.
he
I'm
steps on
good.
the yeah, when he steps on the field, he believes that he is the best player on the field,
Yep.
and it shows in his game. He is a cocky
Yeah.
son of a bitch. And Joel Embiid is the same way. He is very cocky. But this year, he is proving that I think this is the first year for me where I've watched him and been like, all right, he is actually. This
What we
dude lives up
thought.
to the hype.
What we thought
Yeah.
at Kansas.
Right. I'm interested to see. And next year, my opinion could completely change him if he's healthy again. Because there is a point in time where, with what he's able to do, he could be the best player in the NBA for several years. It's just
And
going to be if his body can maintain.
Yeah, and that's the thing, for a big man to do that, it's almost unheard of. There's,
It's so hard.
like Rudy's getting into that Tim Duncan, Aldridge kind of, echelon. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I think of LaMarcus Aldridge and I think of Tim Duncan. I just think of big guys that did it for real. Obviously, Shaquille O'Neal. I don't want to disrespect him, but like the guys that did it at a high level for a long time in the paint. It's hard to do it, right? Joel was injured so much at the beginning of his career that it's almost like he has less miles on it. You know what I mean? But at the same time, he's operating with those injuries, so there's kind of a weird give and take that's going on with that. And
Right.
I would love to see it be paying out because it's a guy that you've never heard him like get me the fuck out of here. Like, I'm not about this. It's been trusted. Just trust. We're gonna get this thing. Trust the process. Like, that was his thing. Like, that the fact that he is like stuck with the 76ers, an organization that has not had success since the early 2000s with Allen Iverson once. There's no dynasty out of the 76ers since the 70s, 80s, if you will. It's been a while, right? The basketball fans
Yeah.
in Philly are hurting. But the fact that he's stuck with that, he's a champion of that team. I respect that a lot. I respect his game, and I respect the way that he operates. So I'm a big Joel Embiid fan for sure.
I like
So
it. I like it.
Joel Embiid, if you want to come on Rally Top Sports, we fucking hate Ben Simmons too. At least I do. So if you want to come chill, we'll trust the process, baby. Let's go. Let's get it going. So no, that was a great discussion. I appreciate the fact that we went into that with the mindset that we might have some differing opinions, and in reality, we came down to pretty much the same thing.
MVP. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm gonna plug it one more time before we get to our last segment of the night. We have a Masters pool. The Masters is going on tomorrow morning. It starts around 8 a.m. is the first tee time in Augusta, Georgia. Tiger is back in it. Brooks, Rory, JT, DJ, Colin, all the guys, they are teeing off tomorrow to start the first round of the Masters. If we have a Masters pool, if you pick 5 golfers based on their world rankings, $20. Go to rallytowsports.com. It's got all the information. It teaches you how to walk through it and pick your guys. And you can Venmo us right there. There's our Venmo thing is right there. You can put it in. Half of it goes to charity. It's going to the JB Memorial, which is also a golf outing. It's going to be fantastic. Pot right now is sitting at about $140. $140 goes to the winner. $140 goes to the charity, at least. And that's if me, Todd, and Bobby don't win. Because if we win,
Right.
it's all going to the charity. It's all going to the charity. So it's going to be awesome. It's going to be awesome. But now, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, it is time for the one, the only. Who the fuck is it? And the crowd goes wild. Who the fuck is it? A favorite game here. Of who the fuck it is. Excuse me. Who the fuck it is. I fucked that up, Todd. It's only our second time.
All right.
It's our new game.
We'll get there.
It's our new game. Who the fuck it is. And this time it's just me. So it's going to be like pulling teeth. It's going to be a little bit more difficult because my knowledge of the NBA beyond 2007 is a little sparse. But we're going to get there together as a unit.
Here's the
So
thing.
why don't you describe the game a little bit, Todd?
Sure. Before I get into that, I took that into consideration and I eased up on you just a little bit.
Okay.
Right?
Just softball.
So
yeah.
They're not softballs by any means, but it's fucking Michael Oliver Candy. I promise you that. We're not going to
What's
get down
that?
that
It's
road.
what?
That's not Michael Oliver Candy this time. We're not
Okay.
gonna go down that road.
All right. When Aaron's on, you
So-
can do that. When Aaron's on, you can do that.
He's created an odd vengeance that I can't describe to you right now, but it's going to get more challenging for him. He just doesn't know that yet.
Oh boy.
So who the fuck it is? Here it is.
Who the fuck it is? Round one.
The rules are: I give 3 to 5 clues. A guess is made. If it's incorrect, and provide an additional clue. I will, for the sake of time and for it just being Corey and I say 3 guesses.
Okay. That's fair.
So that way we're
3 guesses
that way we're not-
if I get them all incorrectly, I am killed. Is that the No, different game. Sorry.
Yeah. This is a Squid Game.
All right,
this
not
is who
Squid
it
Games.
is.
Okay. It's confused.
So,
Mhm.
player number 1 from the University of Purdue, a former Boilermaker.
Okay.
In his prime, he was a
Drew Brees.
Sacramento King and an Indiana Pacer. Some would describe him as the OG big man with a jumper.
OG, big man with a jumper, Pacers and Kings.
He actually replaced Rick Smits. So I'll kind of paint this picture for you. So the Pacers go to the NBA Finals in the year 2000. The following season, he is one of the people that they pick up either via trade or free agency with another player I'm going to describe for you a little bit. But he was a staple of the really the triage that was around Reggie Miller.
I got nothing. You're gonna need to give me. Just go ahead. Who is it?
It's Brad Miller.
Brad Miller. Yep. Would have never got it. Never got it.
Okay.
Brad Miller,
fair.
ladies and gentlemen. Give it up for Brad Miller.
Fun fact. So Nick and I, in the 50-year anniversary for Indiana being an NBA or being a professional franchise, went to opening night where they played the Dallas Mavericks
Mm-hmm.
and Dirk Nowitzki's last year of playing professional basketball.
Right.
So the reason I set this up is because for Pacers game night, they brought back former NBA players, and then you got to do a little meet and greet action with them. Well, Nick and I got to meet Brad Miller on the middle of fucking Market Street in downtown Indianapolis, not at the Pacers game because he was just walking around drunk.
That's awesome.
Like, it was awesome. It was great. And I'm like,
Perfect.
holy shit, these guys 7 feet tall, probably drank 15 vodka sodas or something at the game. And I was just like, hey, Brad Miller. That was our interaction. Hey, Brad Miller. And we moved on. That was
Perfect. He's like, hey, what's up? You know the fuck I am. What's up?
it. So, player number 2.
Player number 2. How many players do we have?
3. This is 2 of
3.
3.
Okay. 0 for
Player
1.
number 2,
Rough start.
drafted by the Portland Trailblazers out of high school in 1996.
Oh, fuck.
So I brought the Pacers going. The Pacers going to the NBA Finals in 2000, right? So in 2001, or at the end of the 2000 season, Mark Jackson, Rick Smits, Chris Mullin all retire. The Pacers starting 5 is in complete shambles. This young talent had just come off of his rookie contract in the NBA and was signed by the Indiana Pacers. He then played for the Pacers up until 2008, which at that point in time he was traded to the Toronto Raptors, which led to the Pacers drafting Roy Hibbert.
So it's a big man void.
It's a big man.
You're right on the cusp of my NBA knowledge. You're right on the cusp. Like
Okay.
when the Pacers, that Roy Hibbert, Danny Granger, Paul George, Grant Hill, George Hill.
Yeah.
That's me in the NBA. You're right on the cusp right there with that one. I have absolutely no idea who this player is. Who is it?
It is Jermaine O'Neal.
Okay. All right. Well, I know who Jermaine O'Neal is. When you say that, I had no idea he was drafted by the Portland Trailblazers. So Jermaine O'Neal, give it up for Jermaine. One time, fuck Jermaine. That was Dr. Dre. I didn't say that. It was Dr. Dre. He said, fuck Jermaine. Not me.
Oh, man. All right.
You think here's the thing. There are NBA fans that are like diehard NBA fans that are watching this right now. Like, this guy's a fucking idiot. That's what they're thinking right now. But it's not true. All right. I'm just late to the game, guys.
It's okay. So I had a backup because I thought, all right, let's get some. I thought maybe let's do somebody current.
Current.
So
okay.
Here's the real test. Here is my current player for you.
Okay.
Drafted out of Weber State by.
Sorry, you broke up. Drafted out of where?
Weber State.
Okay.
Weber State, the home of the Wildcats, by the Portland Trailblazers.
Uh-huh.
In 2012, was a lottery pick, as a matter of fact. 6-time NBA All-Star. He's also a rapper.
Like currently?
Yeah.
Damian
Lillard, that's right.
All right, cool. I was like, I figured I was like, Dame time, like that sounds like he could rap. Like that seems like somebody that would rap for sure. I was just like that when you first said lottery pick, Portland Trailblazers, that was the first thing that came to my mind was Damian Lillard. So I was like, all right. And then he said rapper. Just made sense.
I had two people picked for Portland. The other one was CJ McCollum. And the only reason I was going to pick CJ McCollum is, fun fact, CJ McCollum is actually in the top 10 all-time in scoring in college basketball.
Wow. Okay. Wouldn't have guessed that.
Yeah, so when he was at Lehigh, he averaged, for 3 years, he averaged over 30 points a game.
Wow.
Which is fucking insane. Regardless of any level you're playing at, that's nuts.
It doesn't. You could argue he was clearly in the wrong. He was clearly in the wrong stratosphere of college basketball, right?
Yeah. Look, Lehigh's probably not the place for CJ McCollum. Maybe when he was 17, it was.
Right.
Because
right.
He wants another 6'3" shooting guard, right?
Clearly one of those guys that underappreciated coming out of high school, got to a program that allowed him to be him, excelled, made a splash, and then it did exactly that in the NBA as well.
Steph Curry. Let's be clear.
Hurt
I
near.
think he's. I think him and John Moran are two prime examples of people who just weren't given the right opportunity out of high school, or didn't
So
the right
was Steph a
opportunity.
top 2 pick? When was Steph taken?
Oh, I knew you were going to ask me that question, and I didn't look it up. And I'm going to tell
That's
you
good.
right now when he was drafted.
In a race. He was drafted in 2009. Great
He
year.
was a
Seventh.
yes,
Yeah.
seventh.
Seventh overall. So it's still a high pick. I mean, Donovan
Yeah.
Mitchell is like ninth. Obviously, Steph Curry is better than Donovan Mitchell, but just perspective there. For other perspective, Luke Kennard was eighth overall. So there you go. Mr. Basketball Ohio.
It's absolutely insane. That I truly believe Luke Kennard should have stuck to football. I saw the dude play both sports, and he was probably the best quarterback that wasn't a college quarterback that I saw play in person. Because he was 6'6", and he could throw the ball 50 yards.
Here's the thing. If you break LeBron James' scoring record, you're gonna go play basketball.
Right.
If you get offers from Duke,
yeah.
If you get offers from Duke to play basketball, you're gonna go play basketball.
I mean, I get it.
Yeah,
It was so I heard the story really quick because I think it tells a lot to Luke Kennard as a person. So when he was his senior year at Franklin High School, I was living in Dayton at the time by then, and I was working at Kroger, and the Kroger that I worked at the time was playing Franklin in basketball. It was in Beaver Creek. They were playing Franklin that night. One of my employees goes, "Hey, do you want a ticket to watch Franklin play Beaver Creek?" Luke Kennard's, like, well, yeah, I want to see him play in person. It's like they're $25 a ticket. So I just want to put that in perspective. A high school basketball game at a high school basketball arena was $25 a ticket.
The seat's like 2,500 people max.
Beaver Creek's gym is similar to Fairfield's. It's big.
Okay.
It's a big gym. It probably seats
5,000.
Yeah, 5 to 7,500, somewhere in that ballpark. So I did it. I bit the bullet. Like, fuck it. I live by myself. Whatever. I'll pay this $25 to go watch this guy play basketball.
Go drink Mountain Dew and eat popcorn. Let's do it.
It was uncomfortable to me to watch him play because he was so much better than anybody else that was on the court. So he takes a tip off. Mind you, he takes a tip off, and then he walks back, grabs the ball from the guy that he hit the tip off to, takes 4 steps over half court, shoots it, makes it. That's how the game started. And I was like, holy shit. The dude had 36 points in the first half, and he did not play in the second half.
Wow.
And at that point in time, Beaver Creek was like the number 5 or 6 team in the state of Ohio. Like there was a big basketball team. And Luke Kennard just went in there, and I think he ended up coming back in the fourth quarter because it got like within 10, and he ended up with like 46 points.
Just shit.
He was very he was very emphatic because I got to talk to him for a few minutes after the game with his dad because they did fucking meet and greets for this dude after games because he was Mr. Ohio. He had the
Mr.
year
Basketball
before.
Ohio, man.
Right. He had already broken LeBron's scoring record by that point in time. He was doing it to pad the stats, right? And I asked him about what made him decide to go to Duke, and he said, "I'm going to make a lot of money if I go to Duke." He made a lot of money, and
smart.
He's completely irrelevant in the NBA. So good for him. That's my Luke Kennard story. Probably the best high school athlete other than David Montgomery that I saw play in person.
You never saw OJ?
I think Luke Kennard was actually a better basketball player than OJ Mayo.
Wow.
I do. Look, here's why I say that. I think Paul Walker was a better basketball player than OJ Mayo. Or Bill Walker. I'm sorry, Bill Walker. Do you remember that, right? When they used to play at Fairfield sometimes
North
when we were
College Hill?
younger? Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking
Yeah.
about.
So, do you remember? I don't know if you remember this or if you were there. Do you remember when they played Withrow and Yancey Gates was on Withrow?
Yes.
Yes. Bill Walker scored like almost 50 points that night.
It's a good night. I
And
remember.
I
Go ahead.
look, OJ Mayo was nuts though. Let's be clear. When he came to North
A
College
freak.
Hill and you
A
watched,
freak.
it was insane because he was already a grown ass man. He was also like 19. He was a sophomore. I don't know if anybody knows what his actual age is.
That's not true.
Nobody nobody knows what his real age is. Also, he's gone. He's off the face of the earth. Nobody knows.
He's in
what
Europe.
happened
He's playing in Europe, if I'm not mistaken. I think he's playing in the Euro
Really?
League. Yeah, I'm pretty sure he is, because he was kicked out of the NBA for marijuana. I believe it was
Yep.
classified as drugs and narcotics, but OJ Mayo smoked weed and he liked smoking weed, and now the NBA doesn't test on marijuana, and it I mean, I think he was drafted by Memphis. OJ Mayo was, and
Right.
he was a hell of a basketball player. Like, he was still really good in the NBA. He just kept getting in trouble. He kept getting in trouble. So it begs the question, like, would OJ Mayo still have been like at least like an Andre Iguodala like caliber player? Would he have been at least like a oh I'm trying to think of like mid tier comp guys that, like a Jordan Crawford or you know what I'm saying, like some of these guys that like still make a significant impact to their team. Mike Conley, you know what I mean? I'm just naming fucking Grizzlies at this point, but just guys that make a significant impact to their team, but they're not necessarily like the stars, right? I think OJ Mayo could have easily been that.
I agree. Look, I loved what I saw him probably play 15 games at North College Hill. My dad refereeing basketball and umpiring baseball. He just had he got a lot of connects on a lot of games. So we got to go a lot of really cool basketball. And it just so happens that North College Hill is only like 20 minutes from Fairfield. And they had to play at Fairfield High School because they couldn't fit everybody into the gym.
Yeah.
So we got lucky that we got to watch him play a lot.
Yeah.
Like more often than most of Cincinnati. And they had the two best players in the state of Ohio running the floor together between him and Bill Walker. And I think Bill Walker is a guy too. You look at his NBA career, when he was on New York, he was a good scorer. And that's a guy that made an actual impact on the floor. And similar to OJ Mayo, he had an issue with passing drug tests and kind of like a Michael Beasley almost. I think Bill Walker is similar in that.
Michael Beasley was one of my favorite players in the entire NCAA coming out of Kansas State, and I was so excited to see what he was going to. It's a shame, honestly, that he wasn't in the league for longer, more impactful, because honestly, I just feel like talent-wise, he was probably the best in his class. Probably could have been the best in the league at the time if it not been that LeBron came in at the same time. You know what I mean? Like
he used to beat LeBron in 1-on-1.
Yeah,
LeBron. Yeah. He's the only person that would consistently beat LeBron in 1-on-1. And you're right though, because
he's just like raw talent. He was yeah, he could do. He was one of those guys that could do everything like you talked about, like a Magic, but not necessarily going to bring the ball up the court. But you would run the offense through Michael Beasley. Like, he'd just be in that low block, and he'd just get to work, or he'd create some motion off for him, and then he's going to get him the ball at the top of the key and let him run it down, and he's going to score. It was a lot of fun watching him play, and I wish we got to see it for a little bit longer. So we're in the point of bullshit reminiscing, sitting at the bar drinking beers at this point. So I think it's time to put a bow on this show, if you will, to avoid a rhyme. But Todd, I appreciate you being here tonight. Everybody, I appreciate you dropping by the show. This is in the post. Again, go to rallytowsports.com. We got a live blog up for you. Todd just dropped his today. I think it might be my blog going out tomorrow and Bobby going out Friday at this point. So a nice little I'll give you a teaser. It's a Masters blog going out tomorrow. So in perfect timing. So appreciate y'all. And we'll see you next time. Thank you so much for coming out, everybody.